Hello there. So, purpose of today's stream, and I'll also be uploading this later to YouTube to make a permanent record of it, is to show you how to set up programming in Warcraft 3 using C#, and mainly using the libraries provided by Arxis/Auden, and so you can make things just as we're making them, basically. So, how does this work? First step is you need to go to this website here. The link will be available in the video description on the YouTube version. If you're on the stream, I'll put it in the chat as well. But yeah, this link here is where you need to go. So, yeah, the first thing we need to do is obtain the template file, which is how we'll get started. Okay, so if you head on over to the wiki, you'll see there's a couple of instructions here about what to do. The main thing you want to do though is hit this little download here button. When you click that, it'll take you to the mega folder. Which is just here. So we'll want to download this as a standard download. Okay, there we go. Right, so once you have this, you need a program like 7-zip, for example, to open the archive of this. But inside, you'll see these files here. So you want to grab all of these and put them somewhere that you're going to work with them. Okay, so I'm just going to make a new folder on my desktop to work with, just for the sake of this. Okay, and I'm just going to move all these onto my other folder. Okay, so now that you've done that, yeah, you just have a little folder here with all your stuff in it that you need. Now the next step is to go to your Warcraft 3 world editor, and from here you want to create a new map, which is going to be the basis of the map that you're going to be working with. So I'm not going to put anything in special here, but you make the map how you want to make it. Okay, so we just create it. Now the key thing is here, when you save the map, you want to say save map as, and what you need to do is locate the folder that you just created, which is here, and you need to save it as a scenario folder expansion. Okay, and you need to name it source.w3x. Okay, and save it there. Yeah, well actually if you just name it source, obviously it puts the W3X on there for you. Okay, so now that you've done that, your folder will look like this with the source.w3x, and inside it contains all the map data in individual folders as you need it to be. Okay. The next thing you need to do is to run this little template setup exe, which will come up and it will tell you supply a name for the solution. In other words, this is the name of your project that you're going to be working on. So should only be alphanumeric characters. Don't start with a number. I'd also recommend starting with a capital letter, just because it maintains the naming rules within C#. So let's just call this test map. Press enter. Okay, it's finished. So you can get rid of that, and then you can delete the exe. Okay, so now we've got testmap.sln, testmap.launcher, testmap.source, and the constant generator, which is what we want. So you'll then need to use your Visual Studio program to run this. I recommend Visual Studio 2019. It seems to be the best way to do it. So yeah, we're going to double click this solution file, which should open up Visual Studio. Okay, here we go. So in Visual Studio now you should have three separate projects, I guess, within the solution called the constant generator, the launcher, and the source. The launcher is the program which creates the map, i.e. it turns all of your C# code into the Lua code. The source is where you write all of the C# code, and the constant generator is just a utility program which saves you a lot of time. But let's go over the basics first of all. The first thing you need to be doing is within your launcher there is a file called app.config, and in here is an address. This will not by default be where your Warcraft 3 is. In fact, this is actually not correct on my computer, so you need to edit this first to make sure that it points to your Warcraft 3. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to do. The next thing you need to look at is updating the libraries to the latest version. So to do that, how you would normally do it is click on your source, right click, and manage NuGet packages. So if you click on here and then go to updates, you'll see there'll be updates for WCSharp by Auden. You just need to make sure that they are updated. This will obviously fix any bugs or things in earlier versions, and of course make sure that the template is up to date and ready to use. Okay, so we've got the basics going now. So in order to actually make some code, the way we're going to do that is we're going to write everything in this source project here. So to write a new file, we just add a new item, usually a class, and then you can start to write your code in here, just like normal. Okay. I will show a full example later of how this is more clearly set up with a map project that I've just started, but for now we'll just keep to the basic. So within the program here, this is the entry point of the code. So all of your C# code needs to come from this. This is directly above me here. So the first thing that the game does is it runs the main function. And in main, it creates a timer that after 0.01 seconds executes everything here in the start function. So everything that you write needs to go within this start area. The reason there's a 0.01 second delay is because this main triggers before anything else in the game triggers, which means that sometimes it doesn't correctly detect who's in the game yet because somebody joins and their game loads up before someone else's, so it causes all kinds of bugs. So basically this 0.01 second delay here is just to remove that bug. Okay. Other things I do recommend is configuring your Visual Studio so that it matches your own requirements. You can do things like setting the formatting automatically, or how it handles variables that are dynamic, like in C#, if you type var something, it's a dynamic variable which can be assigned to whatever value we want. You can get that to automatically rewrite it at the moment of saving or not. It's up to you. So always configure your Visual Studio to however you want it to be. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is switch to a project that I've already started, and I want to show you kind of how these libraries work and how you can make really good spells very, very easily. So in the editor here, I'm going to switch to a map that I have already started. So this is a new 4-player co-op map that I'm currently making called Assault the Throne. And it takes a little time to load up. There's a lot of buildings and models and things everywhere. Okay, here we go. Right, so this is the map that I am currently working on. And at the moment, there's basically no features. I'm just creating the object data, right? Now, this is the first thing I want to teach, is how to use the constant generator. So one of the big problems with trying to program in Lua or in JAS is that if you want to use like ability or unit types and things, it's always a pain. So what you'd normally have to do is say, okay, I want to create one of these custom units here, like this apparition. Okay, this apparition unit. You'd have to go View, Display Raw Data. And I'm like, okay, this is N006. And then you have to type in a function every time, like 4cc, and then the quote N006. And then the next time you look at that code, you're like, what the hell am I looking at? Like, what is N006? And you have to go back to the editor to check it, and you go, oh, okay, that's an apparition. It's a horrible system. And obviously, every time you call the 4cc function, you're effectively calling a function, right? You don't want to be calling functions if there's no need to. So this is where the constant generator comes in. So the way that the constant generator works is as such. When you create a new unit, let's say I make a custom footman here, and I'll call him Feet Dude, because I'm so funny. You get this 4-character thing here. It doesn't matter what this character is. You're not going to have to remember it ever. So I don't know. Let's just make it GHJK. Doesn't matter. Save it. Okay. So we have our Feet Dude unit here. Now, in order for the constant generator to pick up the unit, you must have the name field or the editor suffix field display as pink. So if you see the text here, it's pink. Pink means that it's not the default setting. So there has to be either the name or the editor suffix must be pink. Okay, so let's turn off this display as raw values thing. Okay, so as long as it's in pink, it will be detected. Okay, so let's switch now to our solution for this actual project. So let's go to that. Here we go. We're not bothered saving that test one. Okay, so let's say in your project you've started writing a bit of code now. You've got a couple of units and custom things going on. But really, you'd like to use this constant generator, right? So all you have to do at the very top of the page here, at the top of the screen, is select constant generator at the top here. Yeah. Now, when you run the constant generator, there'll be a small delay, and then it's done. So what did this actually do? Well, basically, inside this file here, constants.cs, it will now generate constants for all of these custom abilities, custom units. So if we look around here, we should actually find our custom feet man, or feet dude, wasn't it? Yeah. Let's have a look. Where is he? Oh, important rule as well. Always remember to save the data in the editor. Otherwise it actually won't find it. Let's try that again. Constant generator again. Let's try again. Okay, there he is. So unit type feet dude equals this enormous number here. So you don't have to remember this number. You can just type unit type feet dude in your code. And then that's all you need to do. Hello Varklin, by the way. So this is a really nice, easy way of picking up the constants. So for example, I'll show you a bit of example code that I've done. I have a Banshee here, very simple skill. I have a spell which, when the Banshee casts Curse, it also does instant damage. Okay, so that's a custom ability. So all I have to type in here is ability major curse. I don't have to remember the 4-character code. I don't have to remember, to use the 4cc function. I don't have to remember the number. I just remember the name, which is far more human readable, right? So this is how we're going to be working with it. Yeah, so you can just put all of your little files in here that you need and make things work. All of these files will then be converted into the Lua code. So how do we do that? Well, basically, at the top here, you select the launcher program. So make sure you're not selecting the source. The source will attempt to run your code as a console application, which is not what you want it to do. You want it to launch your code into Lua, then launch Warcraft 3 with that map. So we change it to the launcher setting. You can then set it into debug mode or release mode. In debug mode, it will create the map file, it will then launch Warcraft 3, and it will play the map, like automatically with player 1 red in the game, right? If you set it to release mode, it simply creates the map file as a single W3X file, which you can then, play online, give to other people, upload to your website of choice, etc. So that's how you actually create the map at the end there. So, as a very simple example, I created an ability here for the Frigid Corpse, which effectively, it just says player unit events, register, a unit dies event, and it's when a Frigid Corpse dies, do this function. So the function it does is all of this text here, which effectively just creates a Frost Nova explosion on the position of the zombie, and then the units around it, they get affected by like the Frost Nova slow effect, effectively. Okay, so not particularly difficult or confusing in that sense. All right. And yeah, so if you follow these steps, you can easily get going. The only things you'll need to get used to are how to use the libraries that are provided in the WCSharp package, such as the custom buffs, the custom missiles, the custom lightning effects. For those, I do recommend perhaps looking at this example that I have here. I don't know if you can read it very well, given the quality on YouTube or on Twitch, etc. But if not, I can always provide examples of code to you. And from there, you can pretty much make any ability you need. To give you an example, an ability I just recently created was a AoE multi-shot death coil. So it shoots the death coil spell at allies and enemies at the same time, and multiples, right? And again, you can just write the code here. Nothing too complex, but effectively, yeah, you can see here it chooses 5 times a random target, shoots it at them, removes them from a list, shoots it at another, etc. If you've coded before in Warcraft 3, you know how to do this. It's just now it's in C#. That's all. Okay. So, but the way I'm actually achieving the death coil effect is through the missile system, which is a library provided by Auden's WCSharp. So we create a missile class within this file, and we can specify the speed of the projectile, the arc that it flies, the art that it uses, the size, etc. We can even set up our own properties, like, is it a heal, yes or no? Like, I can just make that up, or I can say how much we're going to damage, how much are we going to heal, this kind of thing. And then we can specify what does it do when it reaches its target, which is this on impact effect. So I can do things like create a special effect on the target, then heal them if it's a heal, or I can damage them if it's a damage, things like this. And again, the library provides a lot of shortcuts, such as the effect system, which can delete a special effect after an amount of your choosing. So you don't have to worry about special effects that have really long animations. You just say, okay, well, the animation takes 3 seconds. I just say remove that after 3 seconds. Simple as that. So really, really simple to work with. Now, alternatively, you can just delete them using the normal Warcraft 3 functions, but let's be honest, this is a lot easier, especially if you want it to last for a time of your choosing. And again, we've also got other shorthands such as the dot damage. So if you have any unit, you can then say dot damage to deal damage to that unit with a damage dealer, the amount of damage, and the attack type of the damage. Particularly because the Warcraft 3 standard function for this has a lot of fields that have no purpose. If you've ever done JAS coding before, you'll know that the damage target actually has about 6 different arguments, and 3 of them do nothing. So we just got rid of those basically in our own version of it. Okay, and of course, if you want to look through all of the libraries, the buffs, the dummies, the effects, etc., you'll quickly learn how to use it. Like I say, there's lots of examples you can use. This one uses the dummy system here. I just say dummy equals get me a dummy, basically. And then I just add an ability to it, tell it to cast the ability, and then I just tell the system recycle that dummy for me. And it's dealt with. So it's a very efficient way of using dummies in the game. There's custom buffs as well. I don't have an exact example right now, but there's lots of things you can do with that. Now obviously you want to trigger these events according to what's happening in the game. So if something happens in the game, do something. Of course, that's how you want to trigger it. So this is where the player unit events comes in. So just by saying player unit events dot register, then you can register a new event. And they're extremely efficient, so they don't overlap with each other. Normally in the Warcraft 3 editor, if you're using GUI, you would say, for example, a unit dies, do this. A unit, and then you want a different unit to do something. So you got a unit dies, do this. The problem is, as you start adding more and more and more a unit dies effects, every single one of them triggers every time a unit dies, and you don't want to do that. Even if you put conditions, it still has to check the conditions every time. You don't want to do that. What this system does is it automatically creates a single event, so that when a unit dies, only one trigger is checked. And that one trigger searches through a simple list, which is very, very efficient in Lua, and then finds the correct event that it should be working on. So you're not triggering all of them and checking every one of them, right? And this is true for any event. A unit gets attacked, a unit dies, a unit is created, etc. You can do this with any of them. So the number of possible events you can use here are kind of huge. So if I just use an example, let's say player unit events. Okay, so here you go. So we've got hero becomes revivable, hero cancels revive, etc, etc, etc. It goes all the way down. So many different ways that you can use it. And there's 2 different inputs you can use. You can use a generic one, which is when any unit does this, or you can use a specific one, which is just accessed by the different overloads for the function. So you can use the second type, which specifies a specific type of unit, or you can use the first type, which is for any type of unit. So if you want something to happen when any unit dies, you can do that as well. Or any unit finishes training, or kills another unit, or whatever. Okay. So that's how you create your events. Now, obviously, this code here is all sitting in its own file, which you can see on the right here, the frigidcorpse.cs. So how do we get this file to actually run? Well, this is where the program.cs, which I talked about earlier, comes in. So for me, typically I just put a very simple like initialize function within each one of these files, and I just say .initialize, .initialize, .initialize for each one of these functions, okay? And that's the simplest way you can trigger it. I mean, from here you could then, say, okay, run this next file, and this file would contain your code for like how you start the game, or how you display your interfaces, or whatever. But as long as you do it from the start function, that's how you get it going. Right, so I've kind of gone through that a little quickly, obviously, but I'm sure that if you rewatch any of the data that any of the video, you'll be able to quickly understand kind of how it works. But if you're not sure, just feel free to contact me. You can get me on YouTube, on Twitch. You can get me on Discord as well. I'll put links to these things on the description of the video if you're on YouTube. And that should make it fairly easy to get you started. As for general C#, like how do I program in C#, that's not my job. If you know how to use C#, go ahead. If you don't, learn it yourself. That's what I did. I just learned how to do C#, like, I don't know, 7 months ago. And it's really, really a good programming language. It's very easy to use. If you're not used to an object-oriented programming style, you're going to have to get used to that, because of course C# is that kind of language. But yeah, that's about everything. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Please enjoy the libraries that Auden has provided, and enjoy this structure here, which is provided by, I believe, Drake on Hive Workshop. So he's the one who kind of started this all, but myself and Auden, we're the ones who've tried to push it to this point where it's becoming simple for anybody to do it. So we look forward to it. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon.